Okay, welcome to lesson 36. This is the last lesson for the week, and let's dive straight in. Let's bring in a UV sphere. Shift A, UV sphere. We're now going to create the armor piece for the head. Now you can do a band going across the forehead, or a crown, or something fancy. I've thought of something very specific to do with the detail and the sort of armor layout that I've gone for, which I thought was pretty nice actually. Turned out pretty well. I made a few mistakes when making this, but we're not all perfect. Even the best of us make mistakes. So, anyways, so we are going to do what we did in previous lessons and mirror this on the x-axis. Make sure we're in sculpt mode. And make sure you go to preferences and go to emulate the 3 button in the input if your graphics tab is not responding with the pen. I'm not sure if there's a way to permanently leave this on and you're able to edge select in edit mode with your mouse. I'm not entirely sure. Might have to look into that. I'm not too sure. But anyway, I'm just going to speed it up now. So my original design, as I'm going for here, just using high poly to form around the face, pushing it inside the head, and just bringing out the bits and pieces of the styled helmet I was going for. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a helmet, it's more of a fancy face piece in the end. It at the beginning it looks pretty bad, so bear with me as the video continues because yeah, I wouldn't be too impressed on what it looks like at the moment, not until later on perhaps. Also making a couple of mistakes which I will also go over later on. Something to always keep an eye out, which I will definitely point out when you're using the bisect tool, when you're cutting mesh and in sculpt mode. This is just a preference of mine. I think there's another way, but I can't remember. But that's okay. So as we're just creating the face mask slash helmet slash band slash fancy piece, I'm just pushing the geometry in, pulling it out, getting it in a position that I prefer before remeshing. Always good to get your model or your sculpting into the position before remeshing. I keep on doing it 100 times over, but after I've remeshed once, I feel like, oh, I can now do this one side piece and then remesh and remesh and remesh. Probably not a good idea to do that because then you'll find out later on your geometry in some areas are bigger than other areas when you need the geometry for other areas, if that makes sense. So I'm going down to 0.06 and just remesh once I was happy with this. I really looked at it and thought, I'm not too happy with this. Always go to symmetrize as well, so make the symmetry always symmetrical after you've remeshed for the first time, because 9 times out of 10 it always is out of order. So I'm going to skip through a bit of the video now because I'd done hours of footage, so I tried to make this a little bit more. It was too big and bulky. It looked like some gladiator helmet, which I did not like at all. So I'm trying to push it in just under the hair, as you can see on top of the head. I decided to push the side bottom spike into the head, and I was going for something to put behind the ear as well as 2 nice curved spikes above the head, above the ears, like so. And then something to go on the cheek. I was trying to design some fancy pattern here, but it really wasn't going very well. I had already remeshed a couple of times by now to 0.6 to 0.03, and my geometry wasn't acting up very nicely. But don't worry, if yours is doing this as well, you could just use your draw sharp and your grab brush and then remesh it when you feel comfortable. Didn't like that, so I took that back out. Didn't like that side bit. Right, anyway. So, trying to use like spikes and that I've used on the armor and the shoulders and that. I've also trying to go for that headpiece look as well. I don't want to push it too far behind the braided ears. So just like previous lessons, after I finish with the grab brush, and then I grab hold of the draw sharp and try and draw all the sharp bits on the edges of the crown. Let's just call it like face crown for now. Yeah, it looks more like a face crown. Oh yeah, don't forget to press the / button on your keyboard to isolate the object so you can see it better. That's always ideal, especially when sculpting. It's brilliant. And remesh, I suppose, now and again is not too bad, but I would suggest going through the whole model first and then remeshing after. I have a habit of keep on remeshing, and it's probably quite a bad one. But yes, you will find that you will have some geometry and topology bigger than others when you try and remesh and then remesh and remesh. Even remeshing the same sometimes doesn't always fix your issue, so you can draw on smaller detail. But at the end of the day, it's trial and error, and it's always good fun to start all over again, right? No, it's not really. Not when you spend hours and hours on doing this. Anyway, I did try and get this in front of the braided hair and then behind her ear. So I did use the bisect tool and created a mark seam and cut this bit off, and then I tried to redo this specific piece again. Little did I know, I accidentally cut off the top bit of the spikes as the bisect went all the way through. At this stage I did not even realize I did that, so not until I zoomed out and then I realized what mistake I had made. And because it's too far to Control Z by now, I would have had to correct it, which I spent another half an hour trying to correct it, which was a bit of a pain. I still haven't even realised yet I had made that mistake. So when I've just got that bottom bit and just draw sharp, just making that nice and sharp and joining up the lines. There you go. Then made that look much better. And then I've now noticed I've messed up from ages ago. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select it in edit mode. Again, use the bisect tool over here on the left, and then right click and mark seam. Select both of them, pressing L and then deleting the faces. What I'm doing here is in edge select, I'm selecting the entire edges, then press number 1 for vertex, go to face and do grid fill. Sometimes it doesn't work, so you'll just have to keep doing it until it does a grid fill. The reason I've done grid fill is because you can then remesh, and you can still sculpt over the top because you've got topology. I stretched it out instead of smoothing it down. It's probably a bad day. It will just give some of these weird fragments in the spike. But anyway, after about half an hour trying to make it back to the way it looked previously before, because it was nice and straight, and I was pretty annoyed with myself, I was thinking about completely redoing this whole thing again, but I already spent hours on this, a bit longer than I wanted to really. So I'm now remeshing at 0.01, and I can't go any smaller. The geometry wasn't as small as I wanted it to be. I can still draw sharp lines on the object, but it wasn't too bad. Plus, we're gonna retro-apologize this anyway in a later lesson, just like with the rest of the armor as well. So once I have finished this and I've tidied this up and tried to make it look like it was before, I was kind of upset. I liked the way how it looked before. Anyway, I'm going to slow it down. Now we're going to have a look at the final piece after using nothing but the grab brush, the draw sharp brush, and the scrape brush to sharpen it all out. Then press Alt plus H to unhide everything, and then I just hid the old pieces of the hair. And I'm going to hide the front piece of the hair, as this would be toggled on and off, for example, in VR chat. So it will be custom. It will be a choice to use. So anyway, this is this lesson. This is how I made the face mask, and I'll catch you in the next lesson.